Hey, Doreen, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And yeah, to get started here, I'd love to learn about your journey in UX and design.
So, my journey took a very strange, circuitous route. I'm actually not a designer by training, but I am a creative person. I come out of the film and video world. And very early on, okay, this is going way back, everybody. We're going in the Wayback Machine here. When the internet just started popping, I got really fascinated with it. In fact, I had the username Doreen at AOL.com. So you can tell how long I've been doing this. And I got really fascinated with the whole concept of the internet and what you can do. And I got involved with a computer company very early on, and we decided to sell computers online. The company I hired to do that were a couple of guys who were software, user interface software developers. Nobody ever heard what that was. Nobody knew what that was, but I found these wonderful guys, Mark Ralston and Colin Cole. During the project, that company was bought by Frog Design, and they were just starting to kick off this digital business. And when the computer company, which was a Macintosh clone maker, was sold back to Apple, Frog asked me to come and start their business. And everybody tried to talk me out of it because I didn't know anything about design, but I kind of knew how to build things and make stuff happen. And so I said, no, I'm going to try it, which is what I always tell everybody, jump through that door. And I
Yeah.
did. Kind of the rest is history. I was there for about 17 years, took the company from starting this digital practice, which just exploded, to becoming COO and then becoming president in charge of the whole company. And,
Wow.
took it to record growth. And really, I think not only did we hire amazing people and did great work, but we created a creative environment. So it was a place where teams work together, where people can thrive, where you had the liberty to kind of go out on the edge. And we weren't going to let you tank it all, although sometimes it got really bad. But we pulled back, we wrote people back in, and we really created an environment. And Alex, I have a lot of I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I meet so many ex-frogs who talk about that period of time as being really just something that was magical. So now I could appreciate it much more than I did then.
Yeah.
When you're in it, you're just like, let's go, let's go. But the projects were great, the people were amazing, and they've all gone on to do like incredible things. I'm such in awe in so many of my ex-employees. And it's pretty exciting. So that is how I entered design. And then almost 10 years ago, I had an opportunity to kind of start a new school at the University of Texas. And that really intrigued me because it was the ability to teach the next generation about design in a way that made sense out into the marketplace. And that's what we've done. And it's been a fabulous journey.
Awesome. No, I love that background, and we'll dive into the education component here in a second. But I think just what I was reading today is super relevant, actually. It said, I think it was from MIT, that 95% of in-house AI projects are failing to drive revenue, but 67% brought in by third parties or consultants actually are driving revenue. So I'm just drawing a parallel to what you did with Frog, and I'm wondering if you think that that applies now, just like having that outside perspective on what worked in the early digital era, because everyone's drawing parallels to early web to what's happening today. Like, and do you think that's how companies should be thinking about AI, or do you think it's not actually that related?
Well, having lived through this last big industrial revolution, I can say there are a lot of similarities, and I feel it and I can see it. And everybody rushes to think that it could solve world peace and world hunger too. And it's an amazing tool and it can do amazing things. But at the end of the day, you still have to think, right?
Yeah.
You still have to solve problems. And listen, we all use AI. I think it does great things, but it's just a tool. I
Yeah.
mean, we've had these tools all along. And I think there's a couple of things we have to learn about these tools. One is you need critical thinking, right? Even though one of the wonderful, Journey or, may give you 50,000 images of something, you have to have design skills to understand which is the one that's going to make sense, because now you've had all this qualitative information and quantitative information about your users that you have to put that together. That's not something the machine is doing. People argue
Yeah.
with me all the time and say, no, no, it can do that. It actually, I've not seen that, right? And also, design is emotional. It's used my old boss used to say, form follows emotion. Like it's emotional, right? So you have to understand how you're taking that product or service or whatever you're designing and appealing to that empathetic emotional side of people. You can't do that. It can give you
Yeah.
lots of variations. It can help you think about things you haven't thought about. But at the end of the day, that creativity becomes really important. And that is why I pound my fist about this. I've been pounding my fist about this for years, is creativity is really the job skill of the future that people must have. And to put it in the background, to put it as a nice to have, to say, oh, that's a soft skill. No, I think if you don't have that, you're going to not be able to do your job in the future.
I love that. I agree. I'd love to learn about talking about critical thinking and creativity. Like how are you teaching that these days? Like what is a modern education program focusing on to actually have people think about the world in a creative way?
So first of all, I don't know if it's so modern as well as just teaching it, right? So it's actually teaching students, particularly how to do that type of research, how to go out and talk to people. I mean, I remember the first time I had been at UT for about a year, and they asked me to do some guest lecturing in the business school around design thinking. And so I said, okay, I'm going to give them, we're going to do some qualitative exercises, go out and talk to people. And I will never forget this one woman gasp, we have to talk to people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that gave me the insight right there. It's like, okay, these students aren't getting all of that, to go out to understand how to take that information, then how to gain the insights out of that. And this is a practice skill. You must do this over and over and over again to
Yeah.
get good at it, to understand where those insights are coming from. And then to derive from those insights products and services that you may have not thought of, to change your point of view, because we all go into any situation, particularly if you're creative, you go into a situation and you say, okay, I know how to fix that. Yeah, okay, I got the answer. I know what that is. And so to teach students how to look outside, how to really talk to people, how to get those insights. And talking to them isn't like, oh, I created a rectangular box and it's going to have all this software inside and it's going to be really cool and you're going to be able to make phone calls and use the internet. Do you like that? Like, that's not what it's about. It's finding those unmet needs. And that's probably the hardest thing. Like, how do you uncover those? How do you find out what's missing? And how do you do that in a way where you're drawn out so that people will in fact talk to you? So I think that's one of the biggest skills that we added, is really teaching students about that. The other thing is, how do you bring in the ethics, right? Design plays a huge role in information that's presented to people and how you present information. And so, I know there's algorithms and I know that, but the way we serve something up could be right or be wrong. So really teaching students about that, their ethical side to doing all of this, I think, has been something I didn't think about when I first took the job, and it became something that was ever apparent as we went forward with this. So teaching students about that. And then again, all these tools that come at you all the time when you're in school, they're tools. So teaching students how to use tools is really important, because there'll be another set of tools that will come
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 in their lifetime, as I can talk about them, that will come at you. So how to use these tools for what they're worth, for what you can use them for, but to then also rely on your skill as an expert in really understanding people. Because if you understand the problem you're trying to solve and you understand who you're trying to solve that problem for, you've got a fighting chance of actually getting the right kind of product or service created.
Yeah, the tools are going to change, but people aren't. You have to understand them. I think one of the things that's have been missing in some of the classic creative or design programs is that business side. And I think, the reality of, hey, you're probably going to be reporting to a product management team if tech's your dream. Like, how do you teach them that aspect of it?
I think one of the programs we started at UT was called the Center for Integrated Design, which really brought together, it's open, it's a 19 credit undergraduate minor. And I wanted it to be for undergraduates because you can get them when they're still puppies and they haven't really gotten bad habits yet.
Yeah.
But it brings together students from all the different disciplines, and they're curated on teams to solve problems. So you're working with business people, you're working with architects, technologists, engineers, designers, you're working health people, just depending on what the topic is, to come together to solve a problem. That's been a great skill in teaching students what they're looking, how to solve a problem on a team, and also teaching them you're not the only one. Design used to be kind of a lone wolf, like the designer,
Yeah.
the expert designer would come in and they would design something, and that would be like everybody would fall over and bow to that person. It's really not that way anymore. Um, we have very few heroes in design. There's a couple, but we have very few heroes in design. It's mostly this kind of team dynamic and team effort that comes together. And
Very
even if
true.
you do have a hero, they have an incredible team that's working with them that has all these skill sets. So exposing students to what that might be. A lot of the classes we teach has a business component to it,
Yeah.
teaching them that side to it, because we know that they can't go out there and create a product that can't get made, right? Or it's too expensive, or it's not hitting enough people. So just teaching them that that's part of design. Design is not art. It could be beautiful, it could look terrific, but art is usually something you make of yourself, right? It's self expression. Design is problem solving. You're solving a problem. And so much of what we do as designers is in the world of solving it for a business. And so you really have to understand what that means and all the players involved so that you can solve that problem.
So true. It's not art, solving a problem. Love it. Final question. What advice do you have for these new designers or maybe they're researchers or AI experts entering, their first job, entering the workforce? What advice do you have?
Well, first, to be curious. No machine's going to do it all for you. So be curious. Many, many, many are fearful. And what I try to expose is what is the worst thing that could happen to you? You're not going to die, you know? The worst thing that can happen is maybe at some point you may lose your job. Chances of that happening, you know, probably slim, and if you do the right thing, but be curious, follow the process, and the process is understanding who your users are, right?
Yeah.
What the problem is, and you're going to arrive at a good solution. For getting a job, because I get this question all the time, is they've got to network. No one's going to find
Yeah.
that stuff, right? So whether you network on LinkedIn, get your CV and your portfolio together, be professional about it, because there are jobs out there, but don't be afraid. Even if the door is slammed in your face 50 times, on that 51st time, you may find that, but get out there and get to know people. Try to mix it up. Don't be afraid. Nothing comes to you. This generation, a lot has been handed. They've been through COVID. There's a lot going on. Just you've got to get out there. It works. I mean, I've seen it over and over and over again over the years, and that works. So that is my, again, you could have the best you could be the best designer in the world, but if you're sitting and not talking to anybody, no one knows that
No
about
one knows it. Yep. I love that, Doreen. Well, thank you so much for joining today and sharing these
you.
insights.
That's great. Thank you so much.